Thank you all for coming. It feels like a very kind of low-key night, and yet there's lots of you here, and I really appreciate it. So thank you all for coming. The Marguerite Mcglynn Prize for Fiction, we have been awarding this through the generosity of Tom Mcglynn and his family. Now I'm going to introduce our judge, tomorrow's keynote speaker. Julianna Baggott is a novelist, essayist, and poet who also writes under the pen names Bridget Asher and Annie Bode. She is the critically acclaimed best-selling author of 20 books, mostly novels. Julianna began publishing when she was 22 after receiving her MFA from the University of North Carolina at Greensboro. Don't hate her too much because she's really nice. Her reach is far. There are more than 100 foreign editions of her books. Her latest is a dystopian trilogy. The books are titled Pure, Fuse, and Burn. Julianna has accomplished all of this while being the mother of 4 children. So please welcome Julianna.
Chad Willenborg teaches writing at the Art Institute of Philadelphia, though his resume tracks stints as a bartender, a grave digger, a dry ice blaster, and a wild game packer. I don't know what a wild game packer is, but that makes it all the more intriguing. Chad Wittenberg is a brilliant writer. It was a pleasure and a joy to read this work, as well as to be haunted by it for quite some time. And if this excerpt is any indicator, he is at work on a soon-to-be-published, I hope, hitting shelves at some point very soon, and I'm looking forward to that. One hell of a novel. So, without further ado, Chad.
So thanks to Julianna, and thanks to Philadelphia Stories and the McGlynn's, the Hansels. When Libby's last check from the bike shop came around, their rent was already 2 weeks past due. The guys offered to buy her lunch at the Crown and Anchor, but she told them she had to go, had to get moving. Was afraid if she didn't, she might never. She gave them one-armed hugs, the envelope still in her hand, and she rode the 5 miles home, crossing the Colorado at the Longhorn Dam, blasting through Lakeshore Park and down Pleasant Valley Road to Riverside. At the bank, she found they had included a farewell gift of $100 in stiff 20s. It made her regret not going to lunch with them for a longer goodbye, and she curled the bills into her pocket, cashed the paycheck, and went to the Taco Cabana for bean burritos. She read a few pages from her paperback before phoning a thank you. Don't forget about us. You come back, you call us. I will. All right, go get it. She dumped her tray and rode around the corner to the row of townhomes. They had moved in with Trevor the month she started high school, and now she'd been out of high school a year, and her mother and Trevor were missing. With a detective man, was her mother and Trevor were dead. 3 weeks and no word from them. She took the pictures she wanted out of their frames and slipped them into one of Trevor's old record jackets, Pink Floyd, leaving the black disc on the rug below his stereo. He wanted her to love his records like he did, and so she listened politely with him for her mother's sake. Last week she had decided the stereo was too heavy to take and too much hassle to sell. What money they left behind she had already spent on food, cigarettes, and shipping the television to her father, which was probably stupid, but seemed a decent plan at the time. She couldn't bear going through her mother's jewelry for long. Their bedroom began to overwhelm her. The beige carpet worn to a smudge between the vanity and the foot of the bed, the walls her mother called apartment white. She took a pair of crow earrings, but keep it real light, she thought. Don't think, even. Keep moving. Her foam pillow, her sleeping bag, her pack stuffed with t-shirts and socks and panties, her iPhone in the shaft of one of her Doc Martens. She remembered her father's hunting knife, and she went back to the jewelry box and lifted the long felt tray where all these years her mother had kept it. He never hunted, she said, but here was something she could give him. Hey, Seth, remember your knife? Found it in Mom's bag. She slipped the thing into her boot, too. She emptied what little was left in the cabinets into a cardboard box, along with one loose-handled pot and salt and pepper, and put it in the back seat of the car. She strapped the bike rack onto the trunk and secured her Volano with bungee hooks, testing it with pushes there in the hot drive before the tall homes whose shadows could tell time. Back inside, last chance, she turned the air off and unplugged the fridge and netted the 6 fish from the tank into an old Coleman water jug. She drove to the river. The fish were stilled at first, pulsing in the shallows, but as she shook the last of the water out, they moved deeper for the current, their colors fleeing. She thought about them as she drove north for Dallas on I-35. Not the other way. Not the way Trevor and Mother had always gone, south to San Antonio, to Nuevo Laredo, past Nuevo Laredo.
Thank you all so much for coming. Thank you, Juliana. Thank you, Chad. It's just really wonderful. Thank you guys very much.
Remember, this story comes from a novel that involves lots of characters, which you don't see in this story, but they're all centered around the same issue or the same conflict or theme, and that is how do we define ourselves, and how will we be remembered, and will those things ever match up? The person that we hope we are, is that the person that people remember? When I'm writing the thing, I'm trying to remember, well, how did you feel when this happened? Well, how would this person feel in the same situation? She's not exactly like you, remember that, you know. But what do you know about her based on the pages you've written so far? Well, throw some more conflict at her and see how she responds. That's how I